We're going to go on that boat trip later, so...
Yeah.
They spoke about 150 bottles of liquor.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like...
Oh, it's a booze cruise.
It sounded like it. I hope it's not, but we'll see.
Welcome back to Radio Juxtapoz. My name is Doug Gillen, and I can confirm that it was a booze cruise, albeit a slightly classy one. Today, I'm joined by German future-thinking graffiti artist Bond Truluv from my hotel room in Hong Kong for HK Walls. Bond, as we'll be calling him today, has quietly amassed an army of followers over the years for his playful and innovative graffiti pieces. Underneath his sharply edged hypergraphic style and digital animations lies a pure love of the analog, bringing customization into his practice, re-stimulating the DIY approach from which graffiti culture was built on. In the short process videos he posts online, we can see him repurposing everyday objects, ranging from children's toys to pieces of fruit, into various painting devices. In fact, he's created so many of these temporary pieces of experimentation, he's now published a book of them, appropriately titled Various Painting Devices. Contrasting these playful performative pieces are deeply layered geometric compositions which are painted on the street, brought to life through some technical wizardry which we'll get into later. We recorded this interview just before Bond and I were due to get out in the harbour in an old junk boat to watch an animation that he had created for the festival, which was due to be projected over the side of a 10-storey building. This is the first of 2 episodes recorded for HK Walls this year. Our second one with Irish artist Aches will be out next, so please keep an eye out for that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel from wherever you're listening in from to make sure you get first listen when it drops. That's it from me. Let's get into it right now with Bond Truluv here in Radio Juxtapoz, live from HK Walls 2024. Bond Truluv interview podcast, Radio Juxtapoz, take 1. I just called this the Bond Truluv podcast. What am I calling you? What do people call you?
Go for it. I mean, that's how I write it down, so I guess it's the name now.
What do people call you? Do they call you Bond? They call you something else?
Like Bond is the old graffiti kind of alter ego, the short four-letter word for everyone to recognize, and then the Truluv, I just came up with it because Bond is like, it's James Bond, and so many people come with that allegory, and I'm kind of tired of it, so I try to expand the whole thing a little bit.
You tired of graffiti?
Never really, surprisingly. Not at all. Actually, I find myself falling back into it ever so often. How does
that cycle work then? Hey, cheers. Thank you for doing this.
Cheers. Sure, let me have a sip. It's been a hot day in Hong Kong today. So
yeah. I just we've been talking about doing this for a while, but we've met, minutes. We walked to the 7-Eleven, picked up some beers, came, sat down, and that's it. I like doing this because it's super, let's just fucking see where it goes. I'm coming in pretty blind on this one as well. So it's like, I got no idea where this is going.
You wrote me the address and you said Sheraton Hotel, and there's like 36 Sheraton hotels in Hong Kong area.
Oh, I got to take that out. I can't let people know I'm sticking in the Sheraton.
Take it out. Don't worry. Yeah, it's like the wrong type of advertisement also.
Yeah.
We are drinking the best blah, blah, blah beer now.
Do you know what, man? I really want to get a beer sponsor. Mm-hmm. I think of all the sponsors that I could easily not have a problem with, I think a beer sponsor is one I would be completely comfortable with.
In this field, it's okay even. It's not like you're inspiring young people to drink more alcohol.
Yeah, they got that covered.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump back onto that. How does that rhythm work for you then when you talk about kind of falling in and out of love for graffiti? You've been doing it for a minute, right?
I've been doing it for 20-something years now, the graffiti thing, and that's where it all started for me, like for many other colleagues and people from that urban art, whatever field you want to call it. It was the first love. That's for sure. My true love, really. It's also where that name kind of came from, and it's so fast and intuitious and quick, and it's in my DNA somehow. And I do lots of different things anyway. Like I feel that it's my strength that I don't have this one signature style nailed down, but I can shift through different ways of expressing myself, and letters and graffiti is always kind of the base foundation for all my designs, all the structures I build, everything is kind of inspired by letters in a way. Even though sometimes they're not recognizable anymore, they are super abstract, they are chopped and screwed and whatever, but it's somewhere always still in there. So it doesn't matter for me actually if I go out and paint like a half an hour quick piece somewhere in my backyard or in an abandoned house or somewhere, or like a 2-3 day long lasting mural, or it's kind of always relates back to graffiti in a way.
What did you get to start from and what do you get now?
Where did I get to start from?
Yeah, like when you first went out and started painting graffiti, what was it that pulled you in? What was it that made you want to pick up a can and paint on the wall?
Yeah, it was. I think it's pretty much the same story everywhere. So I keep it short. There was this guy in my class,
an older kid.
No, he was actually my age. So he was approachable, and he was doodling along, and he had a big brother that he got it from, and so I asked him at some point, what is this? And he showed me and introduced me to the whole thing. We went bombing for a year or something, got caught, did all that horrible bullshit, suffered from the law and from not knowing what's going to happen to your file and what's going to be the problem in the end. And then I stopped for some time. I fell back into it, got caught again. So those were my 3 out of jail tickets, and the judge clearly said, so next time you're going to get sentenced, and I didn't want to risk it because I'm a good boy. And also these other guys, like so many of them, I couldn't really relate to their lifestyle. Like it was too much for me, to be honest. And I'm
trying to think of how to diplomatically say this. Graffiti comes in so many different shapes and forms, and people do it for different reasons, but it does come with that kind of, like, even though it is ultimately just guys drawing shit, there is that element of kind of like toxic masculinity, I think you could
totally,
say,
absolutely
around it.
That's what I was referring to, definitely.
And in the few minutes that we've known each other, I've seen your work, obviously. I've seen where you've taken it in this. It's super geeky, right? I know that comes with like a geeky thing. So what were you like at school? Were you that, or when you started doing this? I'm trying to paint that picture of what you were like.
I always wanted to develop my style. Like really, it was ultimately for me not being all city. So this is also where the definition of graffiti goes separate ways, divides. The vandalism aspect of being all city, of bombing, of going to crazy spots and stuff like that. And then the aesthetic version of it, where people actually want to develop their style and they communicate through the way they shape the letters. And for me, ultimately, that was always the main approach. And that's a never-ending story because you can shape letters in endless ways. And even if it's not letters anymore, and still you have that aesthetic that's sticking with you. And that happened to me also. So yeah, this is kind of the core foundation for me.
So how quickly did you start to push that sort of like aesthetic development? Was that always there? Because, you can see you walk around London and it's like that same hand style just coming back. It's like, dude, you've been doing that for 25 years. Like, how are you not bored?
Yeah, that's usually what you see on the streets. But then if you look like in special areas, like, I don't know, private walls or halls of fames, that's where you usually find the people that work on concept walls and build up concept murals from really early on. It took me a while, of course. I hated it for the first 4 or 5 years. It sucked because I never could do something that I was satisfied with. It was always shit for me. But so sometimes even I said to myself, so that's it, the last wall, because it looks like shit. It's going nowhere. I spend lots of money on all these cans all the time and bullshit. And then, I don't know, I kind of fell back into it and gave it another try. Lots of sketching at home, lots of style research, really, if you want to. And I started really late. I started in 2000, like really millennium kind of thing. So like the first 3 generations or 4 or 5 generations even of graffiti writers had passed. And there was lots of stuff to build on already. And the internet was a thing, a bunch of really dedicated pages where you could like see other styles. You didn't need to travel anymore necessarily. And then I went to lots of jams still, met a bunch of people, backpacking and all that scenario. But yeah, there was a big library already out there that I could get inspired from, that, to put it mildly. Of course, you buy it a little bit in the beginning. Or I liked like these 3D approaches. Dime was like a big inspiration for me, even though he was always so high tech. I could never really replicate this aesthetic. And I didn't even want to try in the first place, but the way he kind of built up letters and using no outlines and stuff. And there's a bunch of others. I don't want to name too many or any single out individuals, but yeah, that was kind of my thing.
How do you describe your aesthetic?
Let me see. Like I said, I try to have lots of different egos when it comes to letters. And I think in the beginning it was really like an organic thing with spiky, hairish, kind of blobby structures. And then it got way more edgy, way more sharp, way more geometric, way more graphic designy, or graphic in general, and I kind of stuck with that now. So now it's retro-futuristic is also like something that definitely has inspired me, like old advertisement graphic design from the 90s, 80s even. Like, yeah, that's something. Neon lights, glowing spheres, now it's reflections. It has been for a while. But I have, I don't know, I have a bunch of styles, I feel at least, that, that are important to me.
Just like looking through your Instagram, it feels like there are, and I really like that turn of phrase that you said, the many different egos. It feels like there's multiple people kind of coming through, and this comes from, I think at the heart of it, it just comes down to innovation. What drives you for that side of things to explore, and we'll, like I say, we'll talk about the technological side, but this is, and I think what a lot of people do miss when in the few interviews I've read, They talk about that, but actually the analog innovation, which is embedded into the heart of graffiti, because graffiti's always been built on innovation, whether you were, figuring out how to modify car paint or whatever it was all built on innovation. And I think as kind of capitalism did what it does, and it comes in, and now you don't need to innovate because you can just buy the product, you can buy the fat caps, you can buy the skinny caps, you don't need this. And then at the heart of it, you're still sort of like saying, I could buy that, or I could just take this thing and kind of like do something different with it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's the same with what I said earlier about style, about researching style, trying different things. I think I'm a person who likes a lot of things. It's really hard for me to be negative about somebody else's work also, because I see their point really fast. Of course, there's a lot of kitsch out there. There's a lot of commercial stuff that you can see. You can flip it both sides. It's bullshit from one perspective, but there's always this other perspective where you can ultimately understand where the artist is coming from, what he wanted to convey, what he wanted to tell you. And so I ultimately also feed from these different sources, and I don't know, I like video games. Gaming culture is really important for me for some time, so there's lots of things to pull out from there. And then if you translate this kind of interest, general interest in artistic practice to these tools that I've been building.
Is that you, like, obviously you can't see this, but you started just before we hit record, you plopped a book on the table, and obviously just to switch it straight into diehard capitalism. Tell me about this book. Tell me about this book I'm currently looking at.
Yeah, well, last 3 years, I mean, I had a ton of fun just developing funny spray painting tools and contraptions and caps and modifications based on spray paint. And it was like a COVID kind of project that took overhand because it was so much to do. And once you start to think in this direction, and I keep lists with ideas, and the lists kind of filled up pretty quickly. So I thought, what do I do with all that stuff that I painted on these? Basically, it's 2 walls that I have free access to, and I just go there and repaint myself over and over. During COVID, that was the only option. Lots of projects got canceled, and so this kind of saved me and really triggered my interest in innovation. Yeah, so I made a book out of it, and I put it out for pre-order a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm waiting for the print.
So this isn't out yet?
This is only one now, and I'm waiting for the shipment.
Whoa,
so in
nice.
mid-April it will be there, but it's a really small edition, so it's almost sold out anyway now. So
wow. What is the most surprising object that you have customized to turn into a tool for graffiti?
Well, lots of people and even myself like the banana. It's really fun good to handle. Like the way you grip it is like super comfortable, and it's just so.
I bet that's kind of empowering
so
as well.
Odd. Yeah, exactly. If you see the meta,
yeah. Freud would fucking love that one.
But then after the banana, the dildo came. There's a dildo inside also that I use.
They had to go hand in hand.
Exactly, they go together pretty well, and also that hyper masculinity thing in graffiti culture. Yeah, exactly. It's really meant for that kind of.
I bet that was your most popular one as well.
No, I never posted that anywhere because you get banned instantly for posting that.
For posting.
Yeah, it's against community guidelines on any social platform. So if I do it, I lose the account basically. So.
Oh shit! That brings me into what else have you not? Okay, what else have you not put out into the world?
I posted a bunch of stuff. Not definitely. Yeah, it's like I have like 20 tools that I've never really shown because either they were bullshit and they fell apart instantly when using them, and or you can show them, or they are too edgy in a certain way for social media. So I'm planning to put them in a show. At some point when the time is right, and I have a small release show now for the book with a friend of mine in Leipzig in Germany where I stay. So I'm going to show a few there, and the other ones maybe just stay in the box. And then also one that I really liked, it's on the cover, is the katana cap or the katana can. It's like a modified katana sword, and the handling attached with a 750 milliliter spray can, and I think 4 outlets of paint. Yeah, so you can make 1 stroke and 4 strokes and 5 strokes in one go. And the handling's really nice. I really like it.
Graffiti being such a culture, a subculture, what is the response? I know I can gauge by Instagram, and the fact that you've had, this explosion of followers. So obviously I know that the wider public fucking love it. They tap into it. What does graffiti think of you?
Yeah. It's hard to tell. Some hate it, some love it. And everything in between. Some don't care. It's like the way usually people react when something becomes popular in that way. And I mean, the algorithms loved it for some reason. It's entertaining, that's for sure. And it both entertains me plus the audience. So I think it's a win-win situation.
Is entertainment something that drives you then?
Yeah, sure. I paint to be entertained, to entertain myself, to get like this spark of to get up in the morning more or less, or to start something. I mean,
as a performance?
If it's something that I like, yeah, and I've grown to that. Before I paint something, I take a photo of it and then I post it, and the art spoke for itself. Or you paint a canvas, you put it in a show, and it's not necessarily that you are there as a person. And now showing myself in front of the camera is something that I never really aspired. Also, like talking into a microphone, talking in front of a camera. It's nothing that I really dig, to be honest.
I was super surprised when you agreed to do it.
You're one of the few people that actually did. Usually I turn down like podcast interviews.
Yeah. I was like, there's no fucking way, but I'll try.
I mean, you can hear I like talking about it in a way, but it's also I won't listen to it. You can later on. I hate my voice on microphone. It's like it's not me in a way, but don't worry, we're good. So when that happened, of course I said, cool, followers always good. They translate into a certain value also on the market. I mean, that's how that works. Your number in this field, and ultimately people will check your Instagram and see, wow, this guy has this and that amount, and and of course also the whole psychological side of it. No, you want more. Ultimately, it's how this shit is built up.
Is that what happens when you get to 500,000? You're like, I need 1 million.
Exactly. No, actually, with the 500K that I just had, I felt like kind of, this is bullshit. There's no more further going. Back then, I was looking at people with 500,000 followers, and I thought, wow, this is crazy. This is how in the world is this going? And in the end, it doesn't change anything. It's about the fun you have doing it. So I can take it easy now, I feel, in a way. It kind of relaxes me.
Do you think that what you do represents what might be the next stage in graffiti?
Dude, I don't know what's the next stage in graffiti. I just know and I feel it's one of the fastest changing art forms out there. And I've been surprised myself in the last couple of years over and over again, like what's going on. And this, I don't know what you call it, ill style, anti-style, or the breaking down everything to like a really minimal level. I didn't see that coming at all. Before it was all building up to be more complex, more shiny, more effects, more bling bling. And then, this certain movement came and destroyed everything. And I mean, that's ultimately what happens. The one generation starts pissing on the other just to be different, to find their own way. And so you could definitely see it coming, but I didn't. And so I'm don't know what's coming next. And like I said, these tools, most of them, they don't work really. I didn't make them to work, actually. I just made them to ventilate the idea that I had, I just thought, like, what can I combine that hasn't been combined before, and then see what happens in the end. But like none of them really works, to be honest. And I wouldn't want to turn them into products also. Like it's something for me and for people to be entertained or even inspired, and maybe they try to do their own ones. Also in the book there's like a big section of DIY tricks and tips, so you can just build your own stuff. And I'm not claiming any, this is my stuff, don't touch it. It's more like an invitation to start experimenting yourself. And there's a bunch of people also following that line, which I'm actually happy about. That
like open source.
Yeah, actually, definitely. And also this whole DIY culture, I love it. Just if you have an idea and you don't know how to put it to life, you just YouTube it, and there's a DIY video somewhere. And I use it so many times.
Where do you get help for doing this stuff?
Yeah, mostly online, really.
But any particular resources that you'll use or anything like that? Or just
it really
general?
Depends what you're looking for. If it's something involving software, there's forums, like tons of specialized forums for everything, for every type of software. Personally, I use for the 3D animation stuff and all the 3D, also for concepting and drafting. Nowadays, I only use Blender, which is an open source software that it's free to use, and lots of really dedicated people keep on developing it, and it's awesome. I love it. So everybody can use that. And for technical, like engineering stuff, it's usually I just use gum and rubber bands and paper clips. Really, really.
I love that. You go from Blender to chewing gum and rubber bands.
Yeah, since I don't need it to last forever, it's the quickest way. Really, is to use what's around, like rubbish, basically. And since I don't want to build up a product that needs to work, that I make money from, and that I have it's just for me and for the video, maybe.
Is there a difference between the sense of satisfaction between building an analog product to completing a digital thing?
Totally. And that's also why I stuck with it the last 3 years, and why I kept going and put out so much more, because it's something I build with my hands in a real, actual, physical 3D way. It's like sculpturing in a way. You have like an abstract idea, and then like putting it to life, touching it, seeing what fits together, what creates what effect. It's really satisfying, I found out. And before that, like, paint is nice, but you ultimately just paint a flat surface, and it's lots of also the really detailed 3D work that I paint is very, this small, and cutting here and cutting there, using tape, using the cardboard, cutting it back. It's a pain in the ass at some point. I can't paint longer for 3 days on something really delicate. Otherwise, I hate it. Mm-hmm. And these machine things or the contraptions, usually they take like half an hour or so. Once I have the idea, it's basically just a quick thing.
Use it once and then never use it again.
Yeah, I put it into the vault and then eventually pick it out again for the...
Build it, wait for the museum show.
Something like that. I don't know. I just keep them for now. But I also dismantled a few and built new stuff out of it, reusing the old parts of it. So.
You're listening to Bond Truluv in conversation with me, Doug Gillen, here on Radio Juxtapoz, recorded live from HK Walls 2024.
At least I am part of this festival, which is Hong Kong Native Festival. It's called HK Walls, and it's the 9th edition as far as I know, set up from a very dedicated team from what I can tell so far. It started as a street art, urban art, graffiti, whatever festival, and they painted lots of walls here. And the city is so dense and crowded. It's harder and harder to find walls here that actually can be painted. So they started to look for different ways of showcasing art, and they had this open call for digital artists to join. And they have a collaboration with a big LED advertisement sign maker or service, and they submitted some LEDs for showcasing. And the biggest one is at the harbor side. I have no idea how big it is, but it's pretty big actually.
You have to go out on a boat to see it. It's that big.
It's like really low resolution though. The LEDs are 5 centimeters away from each other, so you need to see it from a distance.
Okay.
So yeah,
the sponsor will love that.
Exactly.
They'll love listening back to that. So tell me what you've done. How did you approach it? Like you know, what are we going to see on this boat?
On animation that I made, I do these augmented reality activated artworks where you can just use your phone to scan the artwork and then it starts moving. It's like an animation that lays on top of the flat painted canvas and gives you this sense of three-dimensional movement on the thing, like an optical illusion with technology. And I use this kind of style because it's really defined by the software I used, Blender. And I didn't go to school to use Blender or anything, so I'm really basic level when it comes to motion animation. I use this style and made a flat animation for this LED wall out of it to keep it short.
So what's the
It's going to be abstracted bits and pieces from my styles, like mixed together. So,
geometrics.
Yeah, geometrics and some characters, and it's not like a story or anything. Some letters, also parts and letters. It's like really all put into a big mixer and blended together in my signature style. It's hard to talk about visual aesthetics, I feel. You just have to come to Hong Kong now, everyone.
That's not so useful for the people that are listening to this. That's why I'm trying to get it out. We're going to go see this in an hour. We're going to go out and see this thing on the boat, and it's obviously going to be sick. Are you painting a wall or anything like that here?
I did paint a wall just before I came here.
Is it just a quick,
just quick back alley kind of piece? Yeah, it was awesome. It was really surprising because I didn't expect to paint here actually, because I came for this animation thing. That's why they invited me, and already did the work at home, and I'm just here to see it and enjoy it. But I can't do it. I can't fly halfway around the world and not
to just look at something.
Not paint anything. You know, this is like for so long. This used to be the main reason to go somewhere, is to paint somewhere. So I had to do it, and luckily they helped me, like the HK Walls team helped me to find a spot. And then I met like a really cool guy again that I've been seeing 2 or 3 times. It's Smash 137. It's like a really influential and well-known graffiti writer / artist. And yeah, coincidentally he was there because he has a show or a museum show or some workshops. In Hong Kong, and we met and we just painted together and chilled a little bit, had some coconut drink, coconut water and
coconut. Yeah. It sounded a little different there.
What are you implying? Yeah. Coconut. That's how we say it in German.
Let's break down what is an AR wall and how does it work? Pretend I'm a 4-year-old. Explain it to me. How does it work?
Okay, you just paint something on the wall, then you take your phone, hold it onto that thing that you painted on the wall, and it starts moving.
Yeah.
That would be the 4-year-old version.
Okay, let's go up a bit. How does the wall come to life? I know that there's an app and there's software, but what the fuck are you doing in there? Tell me about the process. The
workflow. Okay. So I make the drafts on Blender, on my 3D rendering high-powered machine. I take the first frame and paint it of this animation, only the still frame. And then I render out the rest of the animation, however many frames there are, put them into an MP4 file, and then give it to a specialized software that puts this rendered out animation on top of the frame that I painted on the wall. And this third-party software, which the name I'm not going to say now because we don't sponsor stuff here, is then actually looking for the light and dark parts of the wall that I painted, kind of like a QR code. It's pretty much the same technique, and then places that animation that it downloads from its cloud server storage quickly, so it has to be kind of small. It's like 3 to 5 megabytes only, and places it on top of that wall. And through the light and dark parts, it can keep it stable on that wall painting, on that mural or canvas or any size. It doesn't matter what size you use it on.
So you have a clear idea of what you're painting before you're going to paint
it has to be
how close is
to the centimeter.
How easy is it to the
millimeter even? Projector.
You project.
Yeah, this is the fastest and easiest way.
Yeah.
You can also change it, of course, a little bit in the end, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't match 100% perfectly.
Because it's viewed on Instagram, right?
Yeah, that, and also you can add some glitch effects and shit. So if you're familiar with like some video editing, you can make anything work.
See, I wanted to wait. I waited intentionally before I asked you that shit because it's so technical and geeky.
It is super technical and geeky, and
it's right in there. But I think it's super interesting. It's really valid. But I wanted to wait a little bit.
Yeah, sure. And also, it's even now in my painting process, the whole making the animation and the 3D concept design and the technological side of it is 60 to 70% of the work of the finished product. And the painting is actually only 30% these days. So the back end that I'm working on for these walls is like so much more intense than the front end, so to speak. So sometimes I hate it, but yeah, I chose it, and it's kind of my unique selling point, if you want to tell.
Yeah.
So, and I think it offers a lot of options also for telling like an artistic or telling like a story. It's not a flat image. It's not like this, but it's this
what
potentially.
Do you mean by that? I like that.
It's like a potentially infinite thing that you're telling. It's not like you're telling only like this one frame, but you're telling like the other 200 frames.
Story.
Yeah, so you can. It gives a lot of opportunity to the immersive part. Like immersion is a big word these days in arts, and yeah, it's perfect for that.
How accessible is this kind of technology and this idea of creating in this way?
I mean, this third-party app that I'm using, it's quite accessible. It's pretty easy. Of course, it costs some money and that you put down. But yeah, you have to know how to animate stuff, and that's where it gets tricky. You need the content that you actually feed to this app to make it actually work and look nice. And that's where you can go from anywhere to super easy to really complicated.
I mean, I guess someone will eventually come along and take what you're doing and then go to the next level. Do you have any idea of what that, like how that looks?
If I would know, I would do it.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think, because it's like it's so futuristic. And I remember when I first saw Insa, right? I don't know if you know Insa.
The graffiti.
The graffiti,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
He did that 10 years ago. And he's still kind of like the only guy doing it.
True.
And when I first saw Insa's graffiti, I was like, holy shit, this is going to change the way that street art works altogether. And no one fucking bothered.
Because it's also so much work. It's like my story. I figure it's like, first of all, this guy's nailed it. It's like he coined it, kind of. So you'll always be compared to that guy who coined it in a way. And you don't want that. It's not a good feeling. And it's not what... At least graffiti is about for me. It's you don't copy like that. You can get inspired, but you don't copy stuff straight out. And a certain technique is, it's tricky. So, and the same is with the AR. I know lots of people doing it in their way, in their with their style, with their approach, and it's cool. It's like a new technology that's around. But still, there's the technical hurdle, you say that, or the barrier, for many to take. So I don't think it'll go super mainstream. What I think is going to be interesting when
this is where I was going to go.
Yeah, if we have like AR glasses or implants.
It has to be through a device, right? That's the thing that's limiting it.
Now the barrier is the device.
In which
no. But I mean, everyone has smartphones, which is like already a really close thing. Third-party apps that you have to download to view it now, but there's also web AR solutions, so you can just view it through your browser, which is like really convenient. You don't have to download anything. You just open the QR code or the thing in your browser and it works. But the quality is pretty low and the tracker is not really stable. So this is something that could be or will be most definitely.
Do you follow this tech side of things? Are you a tech guy?
Not super. I'm a family guy right now, so that takes up most of my time.
Nice. I think that's probably the best answer that you could give to that question.
But I try to, because it's my work and it's also my interest. And I know a couple of people who are into tech a lot, and they keep me updated. Luckily, so thanks out to you guys. You know
thanks
who you are.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Send your DMs.
No, seriously, it's and it's so hard to keep track. You remember NFTs?
That was a wild 4 days.
Exactly. That's so insane.
It was so funny when everyone was coming out. It was during COVID, and everyone was like, "I'm an expert on NFTs." It's like, how the fuck are you an expert on this?
Exactly.
Shut up.
Exactly. It was weird.
Do you think the response and reception of digital idea and digitized concepts is it here? Are people into digital art now? Are the audience, is the market ready to really embrace digital art at this point, or is it still just that thing that corporates jump on and because it looks cool for an event?
Yeah, I think not the majority, but like everyone has phones. If you walk around Hong Kong, it's great. Not even Hong Kong, you can go anywhere. Anywhere is tied to their phone, and this is like
particularly here.
It's particularly here, but also Germany is the same. If you go to any major city, people are just staring at the phone most of the time. Yeah. But so that's the gateway to any technologically inspired content, and it doesn't look like this is going to change. Something really big would have to happen to reverse this kind of trend. Yeah. So I think it's rather going to go on, and it's going to get refined, differentiated, but it's here to stay.
You must get quite a lot of it. Actually, I don't know. Do you get a lot of attention from corporates?
I don't know what's a lot. I'm not
any.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of my jobs come from the AR side of things.
Let me flip that then. How do you support yourself as a graffiti artist? Is this your full-time gig? Do you have a job?
Yeah. No. I'm self-employed, 100% doing this, and it's okay. For the last 5 years, it's really okay. I can't complain. But I'm not rich or anything. Like it's really does pay the bills. I'm happy. I get opportunities, and like I said, AR definitely helped that side. For example, the tools that I built, all that bullshit that brought me the followers, there's nothing, it's
analog for the followers, digital for the money.
kind of. And yeah, it's with many other sides. The jobs usually they suck a little bit because they're
corporate gigs,
exactly,
right?
And there's too many people involved, and the great idea that I have, it gets watered down in the end. And
and it's just you standing doing a live paint, and you're oh come on, we've done this. Hey, they can't all have boats out in the middle of Hong Kong.
Exactly.
What relationship do you have with art then? I know that graffiti was a big part of it. We can decide whether or not we want to call graffiti into art. But what is art to you?
Art is the thing that my teacher wanted me to do back then, where I didn't succeed, really. But now this graffiti part opened up my eyes for a whole world of visual art, design, crafts, ideas. So I don't go to museums or gallery shows a lot, but I'm way more open for it now. And I'm way more open to get inspired and to let myself or my own practice be influenced by different approaches. So I try to build up, or I'm interested in building up knowledge on that side. And also graffiti, as far as changing it is, it has its limits, that's for sure, that other fields of art doesn't have. So I think everything should complement each other, and I think it's interesting to combine things that haven't been combined before, and the contemporary arts definitely offer a lot of interesting ideas and thoughts.
What are the limitations of graffiti then? I
mean, the letters, for me, it feels like you have this square, boxy kind of thinking, because letters are, or at least our style of letters is from left to right, and it ultimately ends up in this rectangle square. But I tried to break that up for the last 2-3 years to arrange my things, my stuff in a different way. So that's the first step. Cut it up and arrange it in a different way and just juggle it around and see what happens.
Do you ever think in terms of what happens if you remove remove the ideas from the letters? I guess it maybe kind of looks towards what you've created on this digital side.
Yeah, I mean, the total abstraction of things. I'm not there yet. I see people doing it, and I also see like former graffiti artists, lots of them doing it. I don't really feel it yet, but I get the point more and more.
How old are you?
41.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. No, I think that's good for people to say that. Let me just try to break this down. Like for me, street art was my gateway drug into the art world, right? It was this stuff that all the art snobs looked down on. It was stencils, it was Banksy, and it was all that side of things. And then you come in and you play and you're like, this is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen. And then you're there for a bit. And then suddenly you're, 10 years later, you're like at Art Basel looking at no stencils, none of that stuff. And you're like, I'm still getting loads of enjoyment from this. Like you're constantly evolving in what your tastes are. And I think there's that element of, especially within certain subcultures, it's like, no. We do it this way. This is what we like.
Exactly.
We don't like it
and
that way.
Graffiti used to be like that a lot as well. Yeah. Remember? I remember people, I came with a stencil to the Hall of Fame, wanted to paint my background with it, do some ornaments in the background. And I said, one old school writer from the city said, if we would have gotten here with that stencil back then in the 90s, we would have gotten beaten up. And I'm just thinking about doing the same to you. Stuff like that. And
I'm holding cardboard,
exactly.
man. What the
I'm
fuck
just
is
using a cardboard here. But that's kind of the mentality you do, like the fill in, the outline, the second outline, the highlights. That's it. You tag out and you're out, kind of, And that has changed so much. It's no discussion anymore. So it has developed a lot. But of course, in contemporary arts, there's also certain movements. And they have the same stuff. Sometimes these movements took hundreds of years to take place. So it's nothing you change overnight usually.
Do you, and this may be a question I should ask someone else, but do you see yourself getting validation from that institutional art world side? Because for me, right, and I'm not even here to, fluff pillows, but I think you're one of the most innovative graffiti artists or public realm artists of a generation, because I've never seen people do what you're doing in that way. And I think it'd be really, really easy for people to fall into that side of going, oh, he's a performer, he's a gimmick thing. But it's like, no. Fucking look at what he's doing here. I'm a geek in this scene, and I know that for the institutions, the cultural, producers and things like that, do they pay that attention? Do they see the validation in what you're doing? Some do, and I've been in touch with multiple galleries and working with multiple galleries and different kind of shows, more upper class, more lower class, everything in between. Like I have had a lot of experience in that field so far, but it's like the real, I don't know, high end, whatever. It's a closed door. I think it's a network thing, more or less. Of course, also it's a lot about what you do, and like you said, it's still. It's hard to talk about my own work and to put it into perspective. This is what I mean. It's a hard question to ask you. So it's more just me kind of thinking in terms, because I just come from Basel and I've seen Cause in there, I've seen Barry McGee in there. Yeah. So I've seen. It's every single time you go to a fair like this, you see artists that have cut their teeth on the street. Yeah. A handful of them get accepted into these realms. Mm-hmm. There's still graffiti artists. You'll see Revoke in the Armory and fairs like that. And you have to want it also. You have to push towards that level. You have to find the right people, shake the right hands. I feel meet the right people. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. Does that side interest you? Does that validation in terms of this? Right now, not. I mean, financially, definitely be interesting. I mean, it'd be cool not to do shitty jobs anymore. I mean, it buys you freedom at some point. But since I am not closely tied to that field, to those people, and
it's like such a crystal castle as far as it appears to me often. It's such a secluded world with codes that I don't get why they're doing it. They're so high on themselves. Sometimes I feel, sometimes it's the total opposite, you know? You never know what you're getting, but it's, it's like a really exclusive thing, it seems so sometimes.
I know that you, obviously we're here in Hong Kong, and I know that travel has been a big part of your life. How does anthropology or did anthropology play any role in your practice? Because there's such a close connection between anthropology and graffiti culture. Like, it depends on which way. You're either looking at it or you're doing it, usually.
I see you read my my webpage.
I do have a little bit of research. I'm not that fucking lazy.
10 minutes before the whole thing. Of course. Anthropology.
It wasn't actually your website. It was an interview in one of the other. I think it was like the Up magazine that they opened with that. And nice. I was thinking about this connection between the two because of the fact that you just mentioned travel. Yeah. And it was kind of like, okay, I wonder how much culture influences what you're doing. You did your homework. It's actually, it enabled me to travel and it opened up the world. Definitely, it was that. I studied it, majored from it, and specialized on India. So I did my master thesis about a secluded group of people in Ladakh, which is in the Himalaya on the Indian side, not on the Chinese side, but on the other side. And I lived there for 2 months and did like a genealogy. So I went to every family in the village and asked them who's their brothers and who's their sisters and make like a family tree out of it. And that's my anthropological research. That was your anthropological research. Yeah. But in that same, I think it was in the same article, it said that you like travel. No, everyone fucking likes travel. And then it said something like, I went traveling for 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, I came home every couple of months, but really,
that's like
I was living out of a backpack for a while.
That's a man running away from shit.
I don't know.
Running towards things.
Yeah, I would say there was no ties. You know, I was free, and this is the ultimate freedom you can have with just you in a backpack and the vision of painting somewhere interesting, like finding that one postcard spot on the top of the hill, and you know all the experiences that go with traveling and painting. That connection is unbeatable. You know, fuck every art fair or crazy exhibition. This is actually what makes my spine tickle. Still does.
Where's the best place for
India?
That experience?
India.
Why?
Go to India because it's so crazy. It's like the most crazy place on earth.
Why did you pick there?
Because
it's quite a random place to pick, right?
Yeah, you know, I think I really wanted to get out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I'm from Germany, and I'm really German in many regards. And I like punctuality. I have lists for shit. I'm a nerd in many regards. And India is really, you gotta hate it, but at the same time, it offers so much magic and so many unexpected parts and relationships. Yeah, Southeast Asia was around the corner and it was more relaxed, so I liked it as well. Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and then my now-to-be wife had a thing for Indonesia. She lived there for 1.5 years and she wanted to go back after she also finished her anthropological MA, and so we decided to go together, and we did like almost a year, not a full year, in Indonesia, and traveled around a little bit.
So has that idea of exploration played a big part in shaping every other aspect of your life?
Yeah, I guess. It's nothing's permanent, everything's in flow.
But why? What kind of pulls you back then to Leipzig?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, family does. As soon as you have kids, things change drastically, and you are tied to school times and vacation times, and routines are really important for children. I feel, or I learned to experience that helps them actually to find their place in the world and to learn the most basic things that we take for granted. It's for them. They have to learn it, and they learn it through repetition. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's.
So this has just kind of like become quite a normal job for you. Do you see that? Is graffiti a normal job for
you? I mean, in some projects,
there's this really conflicting elements of what you're doing being quite like loose, and then actually that other side where you're like quite structured. And I guess it's the travel versus the German in you.
I mean, exactly. It's those two biases that pull me apart sometimes. Also, it's not always easy. Also, being this family person and being at home in one place is not always easy. It's not a piece of cake, that's for sure. But at least it appeals to a large part of myself, and that's. I'm lucky actually that I can make this shift, and lots of relationships break. I mean, it works it doesn't work all the time, and luckily ours works in a way, and we make it work, and we do lots of, give and take. It's a give and take thing, and some jobs are work, obviously, usually the money jobs, unfortunately. Yeah. But then there's always interesting emails coming in, and I'm always tempted to come out of my comfort zone also in terms of work. Also, this whole 3D animation stuff, it brought me jobs that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And it's all self-taught. It's all through DIY YouTube tutorials that I learned how to use this software, and it actually pays off at some point. It's like building up skills is the most important thing. I'm not the person who sticks with this one style the whole life. First of all, it's boring for me. Otherwise, also, I don't see it has any value economically thinking. Yeah, you have to keep in motion.
Where is your comfort zone now? What scares you?
Not going out to paint anymore, actually. Not getting my ass up and just doing like everyday routine shit.
Especially like after 30 for me, it was like that kind of, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm creeping 40 now, so I'm like, I've got a kid as well, so it's like, you watch these things and it's like,
I mean, I think
it's quite scary.
As soon as you have this one thing that works in all aspects, then you get lazy. Like if you have this one style nailed down that everyone wants to buy, and you just repeat yourself painting the same canvases, styles over and over, at some point you can't count what year it is anymore, because and for me always art has been a good way of dividing the years or dividing the times. It was that year when I painted this style, it was that year when I went to India that time, and now the last 3 years I build these weird machines, and let's see what's next year, and look back and reflect on what I've done. So of course you can't force it. There might be like a big emptiness at some point, no more new ideas, nobody's endless, and then I fall back on the AR thing, for example, because it works for me economically. It could be, of course, yeah.
Is it a lot of pressure trying to kind of come up with these ideas, because the scale that you do them at is quite a lot?
Yeah, I try not to think about it. Thanks for mentioning it.
I mean, you've done so many objects, there can't be many more. Anyway, it was a lovely career you had.
Good night, goodbye, good luck. Yeah, sure, it can happen anytime. It's the sake of people working independently as artists, but it also can happen in every job. You can lose your job because of financial crisis and shit. It's like, again, it's life. There's no need to beat yourself up about it.
And you look at guys like Francis Ali or like Erwin Wurm, these kind of like absurdists who are I'm only just starting to learn about, like these guys, through street art, that you suddenly start to see this kind of connection of these older guys that were doing this kind of like random shit, and you're like, hang on, this is in the vein of what these guys are doing, and it kind of all connects, and it's like the ideas are always there.
Yeah,
there's always a way to kind of keep things interesting. But it is that side of things that, just seeing the relationship between how, because it's obviously so popular, but just how the institutions are viewing this, and why, if not, they aren't paying attention to it, because I think there's a lot of scope in where this goes in the future. So what is coming up in that future for you?
You mean this year in general?
I guess, what would you like to start exploring? Is there any side of new technology that us normal people aren't aware of that is exciting for you to explore, that you're thinking, oh fuck, this could be quite fun? Or actually just projects wise, is there anything that you're working on that you think that you're excited to share with us?
No, nothing.
The book.
The book, exactly. When I get home, I have to pack, ship, receive the book and all that stuff, and then there's something in France, and family vacation is coming up, but nothing like super crazy big. Let's see what's going on. I try to keep the summer free as far as possible and just spend some time at home. Actually, the year started quite crazy for me. I did already 2 big murals in January, which is like usually the time when nothing happens.
Hibernation.
Exactly. And then I did all this book stuff, which took forever to actually finally get the printing file done and finalize the layout, get everything the way I wanted it. So that took a lot of time. So now Hong Kong, I feel kind of, I've done enough already for the year, so I take it a little bit easy.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me, actually. It's been a great pleasure, and really like the show. And glad we nailed it.
We're going to keep that bit in. This was the very first time I'd ever spoken with Bond. But the next time I saw him after that, we both came to the exact same realization. That we made it through an entire episode without addressing the way that he's utilizing AI into his practice, or even just his general thoughts on how AI is impacting the creative sector, which seems like a bit of a wide open goal on that one, but I guess that we're going to have to save it for another day. Thanks again to HK Walls for hosting us both for the week. It was a really great year to be part of the project, which continues to embed itself in the region despite the massive cultural changes that it's currently going through. All links to Bond and his work will be in the show notes of this episode. That's it from me, Doug Gillen. We'll be back with one more episode from HK shortly. Till then, take care of yourselves and each other.